Hi everyone, I am Dr. White. Thank you all for tuning in on whatever social media platform you have chosen today. It encourages me as we walk together with Christ. 2 days ago, I was sitting in my kitchen and I was having a conversation with my twins. We were talking about my grandmother who has been deceased for about 10 years. And my twins are 16, so they don't have a lot of memories of her since they were so young when we would go to visit. But my son said, "Mom, what happened to your grandmother's legs?" And what was interesting about that was I never thought about her legs because they were amputated probably about 18 years ago. So a few years before they were born. And she, to me, was so much more than a person who didn't have legs. My grandmother was a spiritual giant in my life. She is actually the one that introduced me to the Lord Jesus Christ and helped me to order my priorities and make God first in my life. I adored her and just loved her for introducing me to this beautiful life of Christianity. And she walked that out literally in front of me every single day in her interactions with people, in her conversations over the telephone with people. It was amazing as a child and young adult to be able to see that in action every single day. So what was interesting about my son's comment is I then began to ask questions. I said, "What else do you remember about her?" And he said, "Nothing much. I just remember that she didn't have any legs. And I remember walking by her bedroom and she was always in her bedroom." Well, the reason my grandmother didn't have legs was because they were amputated due to her diabetes. So from his vantage point, that's all that he saw. He saw this exterior where there was so much more going on the interior. So I started to think, shame on me that I did not take the time to share about this spiritual giant that lived and breathed life into my walk with Christ. And so I had to stop and just think about ways that I can share about who she was and what she meant to me and how the legacy of what she left, just not a physical legacy, but she was a grandmother that prayed not just for me, but she prayed for my children because she was able to meet them. So she was praying for them. She was praying for each one of my 5 children as they were in the womb, as they were being born. And they didn't know what that legacy was. It made me think about Hebrews 11. Many people call that the Hall of Faith. Now, there are a lot of people that do not like that term, and I think I'm one of them that I don't like the term Hall of Faith because it sometimes in our minds equates to sports, like a Hall of Fame for basketball or a Hall of Fame for bowling or a Hall of Fame for whatever it is. And that is elevating the best of the best and putting them on display. Well, Hebrews 11 is different. God is pointing out something about those individuals. Every individual that's listed in Hebrews 11 had a strong faith. If you read Hebrews 11, every person was different in their own way. God did not use perfect people to promote what it was that he needed to have promoted on earth. He used imperfect beings, imperfect people, imperfect vessels in order to spread the word of the message of Christ. And he does that even still today. So our spiritual giants, like my grandmother, even though I, as a child, thought she was pretty close to perfect, she wasn't. She was imperfect as well, but God used her imperfections to grow her, Just like I can't tell you how much growth I've had due to my imperfections. God sees the little things that we need to change in our life, and he uses it like a pruning process, like a beautiful flower that he wants to have grow, and he peels back all the things that shouldn't be there to allow us to truly blossom. So my message today is one of two things. First thing is, do you have a spiritual giant that has walked with you, poured into you, that may be alive still, that you can turn around today and say thank you? Can you share their story? Can you share their story like God shares in Hebrews 11 about the faith of those who walked and trusted in him? And if they're deceased, can you tell their story to someone else? Because you telling the story of those people that poured into your life may make a difference for someone else. It may be exactly what they need to hear exactly in that moment. And then two, I want to encourage you also that you can be a spiritual giant in the life of someone else. Now, when you turn in next week, we're going to talk about something called a Paul, Barnabas, and Timothy relationship. So that's my teaser for next week. So don't forget to come back. But are you pouring into the life of someone so that your legacy can continue throughout their life, their children's life, their grandchildren's life? I want my children to know about my beautiful grandmother that poured into me, my beautiful grandmother that allowed me to see Christ. Now, I want to be clear. Even though we are talking about spiritual giants, I want to make sure that we are not replacing Christ with them. Let me get that said again. In no way am I saying that we are to elevate these people to where Christ is. Because just like the Tower of Babel, we have these giants that I'm saying we're building and building and building and building. God is not pleased with that. He's not pleased with us trying to elevate ourselves to where he is. But he does allow beautiful relationships to occur here on this earth in order for these relationships to ultimately point us back to the Father. And when people see the Father, they see the Son. And so you need to make sure that as you are pouring into people and you are walking these walks with them, that everything that you do, your speech, your walk, what you're reading, everything you do is pointing them right back to Christ. If we want to have an impact on the future generation and the generations that I can't tell you how many generations because we don't know, but if you want to have an impact on however many generations there are to come, start thinking about how you can share about those who have impacted you and then how you can begin to impact the lives of others. Until next time.